Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to our second annual favorite game of every month for 2023. I did this list last year as a way to reflect on the year, look back at all the games that I played, and pluck out my favorites. So we're gonna do it again this year. Using the power of board game statistics, I looked at every game I played throughout the year of 2023, plucked out my favorites, and am looking forward to sharing them with you guys. There's really not too many stipulations for this list. Really, the only limit I put on myself was not to include any games that were on the list last year are not on the list this year. So be sure to check out last year's if you're interested to see what was included. Now, there will be an extra section at the end of this video, kind of returning champions, just to shout out some of the games that are still getting played this year. So anyway, let's get the year started and talk about my favorite game of January. January is a tough month to start with. You have a pile of new games you might have gotten as gifts, so a lot of new stuff got played for me in January. Because you guys are definitely playing your new games, right? They're not just sitting in a corner of shrink wrap waiting to get opened. Well, in any case, Mind Management was a game that got opened and played in January, and it is a hidden movement game where one player is going to be the recruiter trying to sneakily move around a map and outlast the opposing team who are the rogue agents. Mind Management is based on the graphic novel of the same name, and it is just an incredible, interesting, weird, meta spy story that just really captivated me. It really captures that classic childhood game of cat and mouse, and what I particularly like that Mind Management does that I haven't felt in some other hidden movement games I've played is that both sides feel equally fun and powerful to play as. If you take, for example, a very popular hidden movement game called Fear of Dracula, one side is Dracula, and the other team are 4 vampire hunters running around Transylvania trying to track him. And if you give me those two options every day of the week, I'm gonna hope that I'm playing Dracula that game. What I feel like Mind Management fixes in that is that both sides feel really equally engaging. They both have their own psychic set of abilities that they're able to use to find or trick the other side. And so I never felt bad either playing as the rogue agents or as a recruiter. They both felt really fun. And if that doesn't sound interesting enough, this introduces a really cool system that I haven't seen in any other games yet called a phase system, which essentially is a bunch of mini modules to balance out the game if one side is winning more often than the other. And I really like this way that you can choose to customize the game for balance. If one person is way more savvy at playing deduction games, these tools can help balance out that experience so one side isn't getting clobbered all the time. And I just think Off the Page just did such a knockout job of choosing kind of the little Easter eggs and ways to weave in the graphic novel into the game. It just was a labor of love. And so if you like that classic game of cat and mouse, but you wish that the cat and the mouse had psychic abilities, Mind Management might be a game you want to check out. So in a crowded month, Mind Management is going to take the crown as my favorite game in January. Now, February is a game that I had been wanting to play for a long time, and it's another game that I had high expectations for, and I felt like it just blew it out of the water again, and that is going to be Dune Imperium. No relation to the Dune theme. I have not seen the new movie, I haven't seen the old movie, I haven't read the book. So I kind of went in this purely like, I get it's a sci-fi world and there's sandworms, but I did go into this without any theme involvement. But as a worker placement deck building hybrid, it is so good. This game, when it was set up in front of me, it was like a steak dinner. It was like a rare steak that you just want to like sink your teeth into. That's what this game was for me when it was set up. I like worker placement, and it does this really cool system where you have to play cards that match the symbol to the spaces where you're gonna place your workers. And I'm not really a big deck builder person, honestly, but this hybrid where it's kind of a system in a larger scheme of things was really engaging. He also has this very cool combat system where it's very simple, where it's just, if you have more troops than me, I win. But there's this entire like intrigue secret card system where you could see people hoarding things, and those can easily sway the tides of battle. So there's so many different ways to victory in this game. You could just you can't totally ignore the battles, but you don't need to go whole hog into battle mode. You can go more of like an economic deck building victory because you are just racing to a certain amount of points. It is just whoever can squeak by the fastest is able to win. So this game is just so tense. Thinking about this list, a lot of games are almost more of emotional responses. I remember how engaged or how invested I was in that play, and usually that is a sign of a game that really captured me. But that first game of Dune Imperium was just so phenomenal. And so if you're a fan of worker placement, of deck building, of kind of conflict, it is an extremely tense game. So if you're not a fan of that, maybe stay away from it. But if any of that sounds appealing, Dune Imperium certainly lived up to the hype and was easily my favorite game in February. To quote the lyrics of Cake, I want a game with a short play time and a long game board. And this was, at least half of those things were fulfilled by my choice for March, which is Paladins of the West Kingdom. Now last year I had Raiders of the North Sea, which this is the sequel series to that by Shem Phillips, which is also very worker placement driven. And this game is quite a bit beefier than the North Sea games were. There's a whole lot going on in this game where you have a very long central board, you have your own personal player board, you have tons of different tracks, you're kind of building walls to your cities, you're building different developments. There is just so much interconnection to this game, and it is a little intimidating to get started with, but it's almost like in your mind you have these gears that start to move together, and you start to realize how this track interacts with this track, interacts with this, connects with this, and it's just this cascading goodness of all these different systems that all connect so beautifully. And for the life of me, I can't imagine how it's so well balanced and it works so well, because you could just feel like you're doing anything in this game, and you eventually you'll find your own little niche that's working well for you, but it's just like this open playground of so much you can do with your different workers, and it was really fun. I have not had a chance to play any of the future series, right, the South Tigris series that is currently ongoing, so hopefully for 2024 I'll get a chance to play some of those, because so far I love all these Shem Phillips games. Any of them could have been on this list in this spot, but for me, Paladins was the #1 pick for March. For my April pick, I want you to think back to where you were in 1999. Maybe you were doom prepping for Y2K.
They've stocked their shelves with soups.
Chicken noodle. Let's see, we got your Y2K beef tenderloin.
Maybe you were like me and looking forward to a new episode of Pokemon. Or maybe you were jamming out to Prince's new release, Party Like It's 1999. Quick editor's note here, apparently that song came out in the 80s. Or maybe you were one Reiner Knizia who was getting ready to drop one of the most influential and long-lasting auction games to ever have been released with Ra. And of course here we have the 25th Century, the latest release of this game. The original of course coming out in 1999, and for a long time has been, at least for a newcomer like me, it was really expensive to get a secondhand copy. I didn't have any friends that had it, and so it was just hard to have a chance to play Ra. Ra has easily become my most played multiplayer game for 2023, and there's this meme going around, the Everybody Loves Ra, where everybody loves Raymond, but with our favorite sun god Ra here. And it's like, all humor is buried with a nugget of truth. And in this case, it's a very large nugget because everyone I have shown and played Ra with has really enjoyed it. Ra at its core is a very simple set collection and auction game where you're going to shove your hand into this backpack-sized bag in the deluxe edition and pull out these tiles, and these tiles could be kind of monuments that you're trying to collect, they could be civilization tiles, they could be gold tiles. There's a lot of different sets that you're going to be trying to collect here, and it's all easy to keep track of because the player rate in this is really quite nice, where you can quickly see what all the different tiles do, and I found it really accessible and easy to show to new players. And just by the end of the game, people are picking up the giant chunky Ra, slamming it on the table, getting ready to start auctions, getting excited, and it's just so good. It also has this unexpected push your luck element where, a round will end if a certain boat token gets to the end of a track. But you can keep pulling tiles until the end of that. So if you're the last person with the last money token and you're guaranteed to win an auction, you can keep pulling, but if you pull too many of those boat tiles, the round automatically ends and then you kind of bust it and all those tiles are gone. And so it has a little bit of everything. I love auctions. I love shoving my hand into bags and pulling things out. I love push your luck. This just combines so many elements and games that I love, and it's just like a delicious, delicious game. And I'm looking forward to playing way more of it in 2024. And I would really encourage you, if any of that sounded appealing, check out Raw. And if you guys are enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing for more board game content going into 2024. I've been at this pretty casually the last few years, and going into the new year, I really want to make a concerted effort to make more videos, more high quality content for you guys, and I'd love to have you around the channel to join me for that journey. So be sure to let me know down below, what are your favorite games that you played in 2024, and what are some videos that you might want to see in the new year. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and let's get on with the video. So for May, if Raw was the pinnacle of a very overproduced luxury game, May is going to be the other side of that spectrum, where I'm going to be picking the very nice compact Naturopolis from Button Shy. Now, I have played a ton of Button Shy games in 2023, so consider this almost a stand-in for a lot of the great games that I've played from them this year. But Naturopolis stands out in the Opolis series, which is the most popular of which is Sprawlopolis. I think this is still their most popular game, but I like the theme of Naturopolis. The setting of it is just like a little more calm than building this like evil city. I feel more at peace building out this kind of nature, mountains and cherry blossoms and lakes and all of that. I just really enjoy Naturopolis. I also find it the most forgiving of the entire series. And so if I'm not trying to like burn my brain out, it's nice to I think it's a little bit easier and just really enjoyable. So Naturopolis for May, nice springy, very nice game. And when you see my June game, you'll understand why I am picking a smaller wallet, quick playing game, because my June game is quite a doozy. For June, this is probably the oldest game on my list, easily the most stressful. The base game of it is incredibly expensive, and that is going to be the game of the real estate market in 2023, which was easily the most stressful thing that my wife and I have gone through. And this just ate up a lot of our time in June. It was crazy stressful. At this point, we're settled and happy in the home, but this was a crazy project in the background throughout all of this year. A game that is equally almost as stressful as this, that was my favorite game in June though, was Barrage. And now this is a very well-regarded game where you are taking the role of a power plant or energy company, and you're building dams and pylons on these different waterways, and you're trying to capture these water droplets so that you can successfully convert them to energy. The only problem is you're competing with everyone else to also convert this water into energy. And so where you dam the water off, where you build the pylons, where you actually activate energy to be converted is all up for grabs, and it is a crazy, crazy interactive game. This is up there as like one of my favorite Euros because of how interactive it is. I adore this game. I love Barrage. It's really turned me on to the designer of Barrage 2, who has a couple of other games that I want to try out now. So if you're not in the real estate market, give Barrage a shot. It's probably almost as stressful and competitive as the market is right now. For July, let's go with something that's a little more lighthearted and probably one of the more popular party games that have come out in the last few years, and that's going to be Ready, Set, Bet from AEG. This game is the distillation of betting on horse races, where one player is going to be rolling dice, simulating the movements of horses, and it's really clever the way that the horses are numbered, proportionate to the amount of chance to roll those numbers. So the less likely horses get a bigger boost in speed if they're rolled twice, while the 7 horse, which statistically is most likely to get rolled, does not get a boost in speed. And so, you can still play the odds, but still there's that chance that outside horse is going to come in and win. Really intuitive, just placing your money chips down on these different probability spaces depending on what horse you want to bet on is really easy for people to pick up on. And there's also a nice amount of I want to say advanced play, not really advanced unless you're playing with kind of more introductory people, where there's kind of like semi-player powers where people, after every round, people will be dealt cards where they can get bonus chips or different conditions that they can score off of. Nice amount of variability. I love being the horse racer, rolling the dice and yelling the numbers, adding a little bit of personality and flavor to that is really quite fun. I actually don't think I've ever played this game as the bettor. I think I've only rolled the dice. You can also have a app that will run the horses for you if you want everyone to play, but I just get such a kick out of rolling those dice, and also a very good mental math exercise. So anyway, Ready Set Bet has gotten pretty consistent play since we picked it up here, and it's just a nice big group game, great party game, and overall just really, really solid. If you like random, hectic, crazy, loud horse racing, Ready Set Bet is an awesome game and easily one of my go-to party games when we don't want to do like a word game or something like that, kind of like the traditional party game fare. Ready Set Bet fits a really nice niche and I really enjoy it. So for July, it's going to be Ready Set Bet. So for August, I'm going to be picking another classic game, not quite as old as Raw, but still pretty heralded as a classic game at this point, and that is going to be Cyclades. And this is from that line of Madigo games, the Kemet, Cyclades, and Inish kind of trilogy of kind of like tactical troop games. And if you remember last year, I made a video where Kemet, I got rid of that from my collection. It just didn't quite do it for me. I was really looking for that troops in a map, heavy conflict game, but it just didn't quite click with me. This past year, it went on GameFound and is getting reprinted in kind of a revised edition with a whole bunch of rule changes and all that. And I wanted to give the original a try before making a decision on the new version. And this game just fired on every last cylinder for me. I think what really won me over is that core action selection system that is based around bidding for different gods' favors. The way you're going to take actions in this game is that there's going to be a market of a certain amount of gods, and you're going to be able to bid favor or currency to be able to take those actions. For example, if you win Poseidon's favor, you can spawn boats and maneuver your naval units, while Ares lets you spawn land units and move your land units around, while another one will let you spawn these mythological creatures. And so they all feel really impactful, and everyone's going to be able to get to do all of them eventually, but how you prioritize them, which ones you let slip by is really, really interesting. And that core mechanic of bidding for turn order and those different god abilities just really, really hit a sweet spot for me. And ironically enough, once I became familiar with the original game, I went to look at the rule changes that they were making for the new edition, and honestly, I had a little bit of pause in some of the changes they were making. There were some things that I really loved. I think they're changing like the auction system to be exponential, and it just, I don't know, it made me a little wavy on the new edition. I kind of want to see some other people's playthroughs of it before I go, all in on the new edition, when maybe I could find a secondhand version while it's still available, and that would kind of fill the nice spot for me. So Cyclades, the original version at the very least, I absolutely adored it. I think this might be the troops and map combat game that I've been looking for. I still want to try Inish. That's the other game. I really don't know anything about it, but I like to give that a try just to try the whole trilogy of games. But right now, Cyclades, I adore it. Really, really good. If you can find an old copy out there, it's a phenomenal combat bidding auction game, and I really enjoyed it. So August is going to go to Cyclades. So for September, it's going to be a little bit of a cheat month, but I'm going to use the excuse that these are all from the same company as a kind of umbrella term. And it's going to be the different AEG Flat Out Game Group games that I played in September. And here, for example, I have Cascadia and Fit to Print. I also played Verdant, which I just really enjoyed all three of these games. And it's just quite beautiful, this like niche that they have found in this like lightweight tile placement puzzle type games. I love Cascadia, right? This is an award-winning game. It's really that good though, where you're just placing these habitat tiles and these animal tokens trying to fulfill different scoring conditions. It's like just like a smooth wine, and it's just really fun. Love Cascadia. And if Cascadia is a smooth wine, Fit to Print is like I don't know, doing a keg stand or something, because this is a real-time tile placement game where you are these animal news reporters picking these newspaper tiles out of a bag, out of a pile in the middle of the table. It's very real time. You gotta pick them up, look at them. If you want to keep it, put it on your news desk or throw it back into the pile. Really, really hectic and stressful, but very, very fun. I think this might be my wife's favorite game that we played this year. And I think she likes it because it has a very fixed play time, with every round only being like 2 minutes or something. But I think she likes the tile placement too. So Fit to Print is here. I also played Verdant, which is probably the most complex out of all these three, where you were playing these room cards and then trying to place plants in those rooms to form certain combinations. Probably my least favorite out of the three, but still really enjoyed it. So I think September, I really enjoy these flat out game group games. Looking forward to what they make in the future. And so for September, my favorite game is going to go to the collective of Cascadia, Fit to Print, and Verdant. All good games, definitely worth checking out if you enjoy tile placement, lighter games. So for October, I have a pretty big pick here, and it was a pick I was feeling very conflicted with, and that is Blood on the Clock Tower. And Blood on the Clock Tower is a social deduction game where one player is going to be a demon and the other player is going to be the townsfolk that are trying to suss out who the demon is and vote them to be executed in the town. And this suffers from all the fragility of any other social deduction games, where it's very group dependent. Everyone kind of has to be on board with playing it. And my local store had run some organized play of this throughout 2023 that I had gone to a couple times. And I walked away, positive, but kind of lukewarm overall in my experience of it. But when we were having a Halloween party at our house, I thought, this just seems like the perfect atmosphere and timing to play Blood on the Clock Tower. Everyone's in costume, it's a little bit spooky, everyone's kind of in the mood for it. So I was lucky enough that a friend of mine has a copy of this that they let me borrow, that I'm still clinging on to for a little bit longer, I guess. And I read through all the rule books, I learned to be a storyteller, and tried to run the game the best possible way that I could. And that is when I had my mind changed about Blood on the Clock Tower. When I really understood what the system was, the realist suggestions on how to run the game, and I will say that this game lives and dies by the storyteller. If the storyteller is not fluent in all the rules of this game and the ways you're supposed to run rolls and the suggested ways to kind of craft the narrative of when to and when not to trigger abilities, this game can either be a 3 or it could be a 10, and it's gonna land somewhere in between. And I found that when I really got invested on the right way to run this game, I was really, really enjoying my time as the storyteller. But I will say that the games I ran on my Halloween party really went over well. We did the beginning scenarios, I read things pretty close to the script, I followed the rules by the book, and I found that that really gave a good, smooth experience overall. Again, Blood on the Clock Tower, this is a pretty spicy game. This is probably a whole discussion video all of its own, but I found that when I stepped to the other side and did the storytelling aspect, I really appreciated how kind of intricate and clever this design is, rather than when I was just a player. So I would encourage you that if you've played this game and you were just a player in it and it didn't quite click for you, take some time, find the PDFs online, read some of the rules and the background of it, and that gave me like a new kind of appreciation for Blood on the Clock Tower. And so after some conflicted, interesting deliberation for me, I'm gonna give the October crown to Blood on the Clock Tower, both because it changed my mind so much and because I really came to respect how intricate and interesting the design is. So for November, it's going to be one of the biggest surprises for me this year because I didn't expect it to work so well. And this year is a placeholder for it because actually a friend of mine has it, but it's going to be Unmatched Tales to Amaze. Now I've loved the competitive Unmatched series for quite a while now, but this Tales to Amaze is the cooperative take on that, where you'll either be going against a Martian spaceship or the Mothman, and it's just like this very pulpy 50s style to it. There's a number of different little minions that will help either the Mothman or the spaceship, and I am just gobsmacked by how well the Unmatched system translated to cooperative play. And it shouldn't surprise me, right? Because essentially those decks are just opponent decks that you're simulating, but the systems that they crafted around those AI opponents is really interesting, and it's challenging, and it's just really, really fun. And the fact that every character in Unmatched can be plugged into the cooperative, and that all the characters that came in the cooperative can be plugged into multiplayer is like mind-blowing. Like, it just shows how much forward thinking there was in the Unmatched system and why it continues to be so successful. But Tales to Amaze amazed me by how good it was, and it's limitless potential, right, of what they can do in the cooperative world. And I'm glad to see it's being received so well, and I really look forward to seeing what other cooperative sets might be in the future. So if you've ever been interested in Unmatched, but it is a head-to-head, competitive game, I think the system's really fun to play with, and so that cooperative spin on it might be a good fit for you. So for November, it's going to go to Unmatched, Tales to Amaze. And so for my final game in December, again, this is such a stacked month with PAX Unplugged. A lot of great games were played, but it's going to be a 1-2 punch from Restoration Games here at the end, because my favorite game in December that I played was Thunder Road Vendetta. Now, I was not alive in the 80s. I don't have any nostalgic connection to Thunder Road Vendetta, or Thunder Road, whatever it was called originally, but this is such a stupidly fun game. This is like, if you just want to turn your brain off and just enjoy yourself, this is the game. There's a lot of randomness, there's a lot of chaos. You can't take it too seriously, because all you're trying to do is you're taking your small, medium, and large sized car and trying to get to the finish line while destroying everyone else. And you have this little chopper that you can send to like gun people down. It is just absolutely wild, right? It has this post-apocalyptic, very Mad Maxian type theme to it, and it is just a ton of fun. Don't take it too seriously, but I have only scratched the surface. We played with like 1 or 2 of the expansions, but there's just so much in that box to play with, and I'm looking forward to many, many more races. I heartbreakingly lost the last race I played on a ramp that I skidded off of and blew myself up off the map, but that is all just part of the fun. So for December, a nice, jolly, fun, Christmassy game with Thunder Road Vendetta, my favorite game of December. So I would like to take a quick moment though for some Hall of Fame returning champions, games that I continued to play throughout this year that were on the list last year. And definitely number 1 on this list is Final Girl. Final Girl Series 2 was released in 2023, and delivered in 2023, and so I had a lot of time playing that. I made the buying guide on Series 2. I have a preview video or prediction video on Series 3 if you want to check that out. And Final Girl has just been like this consistent game throughout all of 2023 for me. Joining them in that consistency, another game that I've played a bunch throughout the year is Arkham Horror, the Living Card Game, or Arkham Horror LCG, and that is another game that they've continued to re-release a lot of the sets for it. I've continued to play campaign and standalone sets for it, and again, just one of those games. I really love Arkham, continue to love it, and I expect to love it even more in 2024. They have a cool folk horror themed set, Hemlock Vale. I love The Wicker Man, one of my favorite horror movies, so looking forward to that. Also getting a lot of play is Quacks of Quedlinburg. That's another go-to game for me whenever we're kind of looking for a lighter game or have people over. I got these really nice boxes for it where you can store all of the tokens, and it also works as a stand where you can put the ingredient cards. And so my biggest hurdle with that game is setting it up half the time and sorting all the pieces by their values. It's a nightmare. So you might say a game that is good should not, you shouldn't have to get all these accessories to make a game work, but when you love something, you want to make it work. And so a couple accessories to make Quacks a little more easy to play, I'm okay with because of how much we enjoy the game. So that just about does it. That is the favorite games of the month, the games from last year that are still getting played this year, But again, this doesn't even scratch the surface of everything that I played, and I'd be here all day if I was gonna wrap up every single game that I played that I enjoyed. So hopefully this satisfies you guys and gave you some ideas of games that you might want to check out this coming year. Of course, I appreciate you guys so much for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing. 2024, I'm really making a concerted effort to make more consistent and high quality content, and I would love to have you guys around on the channel to join me. Let me know down below what your favorite games of the year was and what some highlights of 2024 for you were. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.